Welcome to another episode of Behind the Business presented by Gore Mutual. I'm your host, Ian McLean, President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. This podcast is recorded on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Each week I sit down for candid conversations where we go beyond the boardroom and behind the business to uncover the real stories of Waterloo Region's business community. Today on Behind the Business, we sit down with Dorothy McCabe, the Mayor of Waterloo. Dorothy arrived in elected office after a long career in municipal leadership, advisory roles, and partnerships with local post-secondary institutions. She's known for a hands-on, community-first approach and for rolling up her sleeves to turn plans into real results. In this conversation, we'll hear how she navigates tough calls, works with business and education partners, and keeps the day-to-day running smoothly for residents. Expect practical leadership lessons and stories you won't read in a press release. Join us as we go behind the business with Mayor Dorothy McCabe. Well, we're excited to have you here today, Dorothy. Thanks so much for making time in your busy schedule.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
I know busy time of year for everybody. You've got lots on the go at the city and the region. So, but I wanted to kind of dig into a bit as we get started. You've spent more than 2 decades in municipal leadership, either elected, at the staff level. You've worked in higher education before being elected mayor. What drew you into public service and inspired you to move from sort of the staff or the advisory roles into elected office?
Yeah, well, I'll go right back to my roots and say my parents. My parents were always, obviously they're a big influence on my life, but they were very, very involved in our local community, farming community where I grew up. But then, little shout out to the Chamber Network. Years ago, I was working for a chamber in North York.
Oh.
And
I'm sure I knew that.
Yeah. And I started meeting. Part of my role was policy development in that, and so I was meeting with a lot of the elected officials, provincial, federal, and municipal. And I started to think, oh, this is really interesting. I like this. And then I moved back to the region and to Waterloo, and I continued to follow along with it. And I volunteered on a campaign and started working with John Malloy, and just paying attention to municipal and federal and provincial politics. And I started to think, particularly, I wasn't really happy with some of the decisions being made at the municipal level by some of the some previously elected people. And I thought, you know what, I want to go from being an advisor to a decider. And so I threw my hat in the ring 3 years ago.
And you never know. Sometimes the dog catches the bus, right? And you're like, oh,
yeah. And it's like
it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
I was elected for a period of time, and making that decision is not. It's not easy, and it's tough work once you get there.
Yeah,
but rewarding.
Yeah. Well, and I was originally interested at the regional level. It's nothing against, it wasn't a city of Waterloo thing. It was a couple of people at the region that I just thought I would make different decisions than what they're making. And so my campaign originally was focused on the region because Dave Jaworski said he was going to do 3 terms, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. And then my campaign team were just like, do both. You can be mayor and a regional councillor. Yeah. So here I am.
So you've worked on, along with in the community on a number of major regional initiatives, and I know we were on the same group that was early on with All Day Two Way Go.
Yeah.
Some of the planning and the big things happening with post-secondary institutions. If you look back, what's the one project that challenged you the most? In terms of getting something done, because none of these things are happening easily.
No.
And what keeps you motivated to pursuing those things when it can? You can get tired of having the same conversation over and over again before things get done. Because I think what people
it's like having kids, man.
Well, it certainly is. But I think what most people may not understand is. The government is not designed for fast decision making. It's meant to build consensus, and that can be frustrating when you're either watching it, or when you're in the middle of it.
We know this is where we need to go. What's taking so long? But it is, it's public money. It's public land. Often, so you have to be really careful and mindful of it. But it's my sort of penultimate project, I think, and the most challenging one is the GO Train project, right? Because I'm still excited about it. Like, I know people are probably saying, how come it's not here yet? But it's a huge, massive, like, infrastructure project.
Yeah.
And, in 2014, when the former Premier Wynne said they're gonna do it, like, they said it'd take 10 years. Then there's COVID in there, and on and on, right? But we're getting close. We're getting closer every day, And Mr. Sarkaria, it was great to have him here a couple of months ago. But what I really loved about that project at the time was that it was really collaborative. It was working with the chambers and the environmental groups and commuters and the post-secondary institutions and big businesses like Manulife and TD, et cetera. And we all came around. And when you can get people to a place where you say, yeah, we see this vision and we see the need, and we're all like, it's a common issue, right? Like that's exciting, right?
When we started this, I would say it wasn't necessarily the community consensus that emerged over time. Well, it wasn't. I mean, there was a time when you'd be hard pressed to find the business community saying transit was a top priority.
Yeah, that's true.
But it did become where everyone understood
the more we
that
talked about it.
Moving of goods, moving of people, that
matters.
we needed to have this. Otherwise, we would not be able to thrive.
We're clogging up the 401 with in the freight that can't move very freely. And the cost of the delay of moving people around when you're trying to get business executives in, to our community, and it's like, I'm not going to let my CAO sit on the 401 maybe for 4 hours, right?
And I do think, while we'd like to have that, the end goal of having peak service, 60-minute service, that will come, but we've made big improvements, and there's lots more to come.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Listen, I think one of the things you kind of your observations is that your style is hands-on and community first. God bless. I don't know how you do these things, but I'm at a lot of events, but not anywhere close to what elected officials like yourself are. So, how do you balance and approach leading? Ultimately, council's strategic to a large extent of saying what's the direction, and then the staff kind of make that happen. But you're balancing the strategic with the long-term work that the city needs, and some of that's very practical in nature. How do you balance those things?
Well, about going to events and things, those are really good. I mean, they're fun, and it's great to connect with people, but I've always found them really good learning opportunities, because people will just have a pull aside and say, like, hey, I like this, or I don't like that, or what are you thinking about this? So you have those conversations with people, or they just share how potential policy issues are landing. So that's a good way to just help, focus on the here and now. But you're right. The balance is thinking about the needs of right now, and then also 10, 20, 30 years out. But we have a strategic plan that we do a lot of engagement, and we started it 3 years ago, but we've done continual check-ins. I call them community conversations with around the strategic pillars. And so it's not a one and done, it's a living document. So that helps, like having continual conversations about our strategic plan and our priorities. That really just helps keep us focused on the future. But, I read a lot. I mean, I'm lucky in Waterloo Region. Like, I go to CG lectures and they share some of their information, right? Like, these are, and I'm on AMO, and of course we have UW and Laurier, and there's always like academic reports you can read about things that are coming and down the pipe, right? So I take advantage of those and try and stay plugged in that way. But because then it forces you to think about, lift your head from like the here and now and think, what is coming down the pipe?
That's not easy to do, because the crisis of the day always gets you thinking about today.
Yeah,
and I think you're right. Going to those community events, it's almost like an early warning grading system, because people aren't shy about telling you when you've done, probably better at telling you when you haven't done things right, but you do hear that.
Yeah,
listen,
that's true.
As a woman in a high profile and traditionally male dominated space, which is elected office, I think that's still true. Probably less so in Waterloo Region. We have much more of a track record when you think back to Marjorie Carroll and some of the mayors in Cambridge, and now we have regional chairs.
Anna Hughes was elected in Waterloo in 1957.
Yeah, so it's less so, but it still is a male-dominated space.
Especially the mayor position.
Yeah. What are have you faced some hurdles, or what would you say are the hurdles that you faced, and what advice would you give to others? I mean, we're going to come into election year. I guess it was the turn of the calendar. There'll be an election in 2026.
Yeah.
In October?
Yeah, it'll be October 2026.
2026. Yeah. So if you're giving some advice, from your vantage point to other women stepping into leadership roles, not necessarily elected, but leadership roles, what would that be?
Well, and to go back to, there are a lot of women elected in Waterloo Region, and that's credit to Jane Mitchell and Melissa Durrell and Karen Coviallo, who keep that women's campaign school alive, because they've done some really great things there. But you're right, it's still a very male-dominated. I mean, if you look at elected officials across Ontario, or if I look at the Ontario big city mayors, there's 29 of us. Of cities over 100,000, and only 6 of us are women, right? So that's and the truth is, generally in municipal politics, it's difficult to unelect an incumbent, right? So I mean, part of it is some of the men who have been sitting, I'd say more than 3 terms, have to kind of take a look at themselves and say, is it time to move on, right? Like, I remember Karen Coviallo said, this isn't my seat, it's the community seat. And so, there's that part of it as well. But yeah, I mean, I've certainly faced, sometimes it's really overt and sometimes it's very subtle, but it's definitely there, just the, sexism and things like that, and some of the ways that you're talked to. But I would still say to women, do it, right? Like, we need to get more voices in, people from diverse backgrounds, women or men. We need to get more diverse voices around the table. It changes the conversation. It changes sometimes the priorities, but it also changes how we think and come to decisions. And I think that's really a good thing. So it is challenging, but do it.
As a father of 2 daughters, and my mother was a feminist, and we have much more example. I encourage them to get involved because it does change. It does change. The style does change. It's and that's a good thing. So.
Yeah. Oh, it is. And Waterloo's got 8 elected positions. At our city council, 6 of us are women, and it's a very collaborative. We don't agree all the time. We have some tough conversations. But we're not hitting the headlines with a bunch of division and things like that, like some other councils.
Well, that would be unique, because that was not my experience for 7 years on council. Yeah. Listen, people often describe your leadership as, and we talked a little bit about this, hands-on, community first. But how do you maintain that personal approach of leadership while managing that strategic long-term priority? Because your individual expression of how you would do things is always got to be balanced against what is the community's, and you have a strategic plan, but then you also have long-term things like capital budgets and how and budgeting plays a large role, because it's in a lot of ways that's strategic. What you spend your money on is going to guide where your strategy is and how you want the city to look. And that's sometimes hard to say. I wonder, how's the decision I'm making today going to mean the city looks in 10 or 15 or 20 years? That's a hard balance to come to.
Oh, it is. But I mean, the strategic plan has to be linked to the budget. I mean, that's just, when people say, about doing pre-budget consultations, sure, that's important. But I see it as, we've done our main budget consultations when we do our deep dive into the community to plan the strategic plan, because that's when you're really hearing from people about what they want their community to look like now and what they want it to look like in the future. So it has to be a reflection of the community needs. So not that pre-budget consultations aren't important, but I really lean more heavily on what's the conversations that have happened through the strategic planning process. And as I said before, I have these community conversations where I've gone into every ward with the councillor, but then also we've brought the development community together, and then the environmental community and neighborhood groups, and groups that represent the particular priorities of our strategic plan. And we've, over the past 3 years, and continue to have conversations with them. So that keeps us making sure we're on the right track, or if we have to course correct. But then, of course, staff play a big role in it too. They're experts in their fields, right? And they're constantly bringing us advice.
Building and mentoring filtering talent? Because elected officials is a small slice.
Yes,
right? I mean,
very
the
small.
work
Yeah.
the work gets done by the civil service, by the
Yeah,
by the
yeah.
by the senior staff or the staff at any organization. But how do you try and develop that strong culture at City Hall? Like you need the best and the brightest to be
Yeah.
going into administrative and
service and,
public service, civil service roles. How are you trying to develop, along with Tim and the senior group, to develop leaders who deliver or execute on complex citywide projects that many will have a connection with the region or take your pick. Lots of people are involved. School boards. It's a complex, lots of moving parts. You need good people who see the value in public service. How do you kind of try and bring that to City Hall?
Well, I mean, it's a complex thing, and of course we have our HR experts, and we do the whole culture planning and all that kind of stuff. But when I talk to staff, either informally, on my way into the office, or when I see them at meetings, or but then of course when I see them at various in council and things like that. But what I've said to them, and it's something that I learned from Carl Zaire, former mayor of City of Kitchener, when I worked for him, is he used to say to staff, like, bring your passion, like show us, like, you got into this work and this sector for a reason. Often it's because you're really passionate about, like, I can tell you, some of the staff who are directors of various departments, they care, and other staff too, they really care deeply about frontline staff to our senior staff. They care deeply about public service and the work they're doing. And it's like, don't be afraid to show that when you come to talk to us about the project or the ideas or changes that you want to make. And like, tell us why, because like, you're the experts in it. You're dealing with it every day in a frontline way. So, share that with us as council so that we know, right, that we can trust you, And so that's the message that I've tried to share with staff is like, show us your passion.
The Behind the Business podcast is made possible through the support of our title sponsor, Gore Mutual. Proudly Canadian, Gore Mutual has stayed true to one purpose for more than 185 years: insurance that does good. It's the reason they exist. They believe that when we focus on being good, doing good, and spreading good, we all thrive together. We're grateful for their continued commitment to our local communities and the positive impact they make every day. For more information, visit goremutual.ca. So Waterloo is growing rapidly, and I would say Waterloo broadly. City's growing, but the region of Waterloo is growing rapidly. I think, and I think there's starting to be some debate, and a lot of that is because of sort of the macro things that are happening in Canada, right? We've came through COVID. Immigration was out of control. People are feeling pressure about getting homes and doctors and schools, the things that they need.
Yeah.
But for over 20 years, the province, the city, the region, the whole community has said we are planning to grow to 951,000, so more or less 1 million people by 2051. Most of us expect that to happen before 2051.
Yeah.
Our chamber has been saying we got to have this Vision 1 Million series.
And the important part is, I like that series you're doing. It's smart.
Well, and it's less about saying what the vision is, because the vision is set. The real question is, the part that's important for us is are we ready? Do we have the housing and the of all types that we need? Are we going to have the jobs? How's the environment going to look? All of those pieces are important. So, as you think about the city becoming 1 million, part of a region that's 1 million people, that's a pretty ambitious goal. Lots to do. What makes the city, Waterloo, unique in that context? And how does it influence the decisions that you and the council are making to be? Because we are a community of 7 different municipalities in a region. That's sometimes hard to balance, but. I just try. I want to this is an important question for us all to say is how do we take our individual parts and understand that it's in a bigger context?
Right. Yeah. And so those are really big questions, and some of it's from the regional level where we're talking about infrastructure planning and things like that. But then in a Waterloo perspective, I mean, part of what I think about a lot is like, how do we make Waterloo or continue to make Waterloo a place where people from wherever, like who want to, who grown up here, that they want to stay here, who are coming from other places in Canada or around the world, like how do we make it a really vibrant community that is a place, because a lot of it's about talent, right? Like we're trying to attract some of the best and brightest in the world, that they come to like the Perimeter Institute and CG and the universities and the college, right? And then to some of the businesses too. So how do we make it a city and a region that they want to live in? So, and vibrant. So, I mean, that's in addition to the, hard infrastructure and the core services, that cities have to deliver. It's also like, what's the festivals and events and the cultural activities and, just streetscaping and parks and things like that, and coffee shops. Like people want to live, work, and play, but we all, I think sometimes we haven't had enough of an emphasis on the the play part, right? Because you want to have a good life here, and so yeah, that's part of it too. It's like, what is the Eric Avner from the
Waterloo Region community.
Yeah, he says like it's not just building, it's building better.
Yeah, I think that's true. Listen, I mean, one of the things that I know has been a priority for Waterloo, well, for everyone, frankly, but housing is a top concern for everyone across the region. Waterloo's been recognized for its success with the Housing Accelerator Fund. You've got some funding from that. Also, with Build Now Waterloo Region, and I was at that announcement, which is great news up near Rim Park.
2025, University Avenue.
Yeah. So there's some things happening. What's one visible change residents might notice on their streets and in their community as some of these initiatives come out? Because 100 years ago when I was on council, we came to the realization we didn't have any greenfield and that a lot of our growth was going to have to be up or multi-res. And that has continued on for the last, I've been here 15 years. That's got to be 22, 23 years ago when we passed that policy. And you're living that now.
Absolutely.
And the reality is streets and communities and neighborhoods are going to look different. Like, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I give former councils like that a lot of credit, because like when the province started changing the planning regime, I'm like, Waterloo did this like 10 or 15 years ago to a large extent, right? So, but like things that are going to be different and starting to already be different is, it's kind of going back to like the older days where there was retail mixed in. And that could be small businesses and some commercial settings, but it could be a coffee shop or hair salon or whatever, or convenience stores mixed in with neighborhoods. That's something that, people want to be able to walk and just go and grab a cup of coffee or a bag of milk or something like that. They don't need to have to get in a car to go to the grocery store that's 10 kilometers away. So those are some things that, that we'll see. One of the things we're working on right now, regionally and with the city, is with places of worship, because places of worship, congregations are declining. They have a lot of land often around their place of worship. So we've got a program in place where we're working with them to try and help them if they're thinking of doing something with their land, what that might look like, how it can be developed,
for seniors housing, for a variety of reasons.
Yep. So, I mean, there's a great example of one that was done in Waterloo at Behringer and, oh my goodness, by Laurel Creek. Yeah. All Saints Anglican. They sold part of the property to Ian Cook Homes, and they've got about 70 townhomes in there now, and then the church rebuilt. Still the same piece of property, the same amount, but it's so things like that will look different, I think, and also along our arterial roads like University, Bridgeport, Herb Street, those roads, you're going to start to see 6 to 8 story housing units, right, with retail and commercial on the main floor, because those are transit oriented communities. So you're going to see changes like that.
And I think we all got to expect that. So you can't grow without that. I guess we're not sprawling out.
Yeah, and not everyone wants a single family home.
No.
Like, it's like younger people today, like they want to be more mobile. but they also this is just a different choice that people, if you're coming from another country, look at Europe. A lot of people live in apartments and flats and
And
condos,
I guess
right?
that's
It's
the
very,
point. As we change, choice has to be there. And I do a lot of work with the Immigration Partnership.
yeah,
The newcomers that are coming here, they're going to fuel our economy because they're
Yeah.
the workers of the future. Most of them are younger. They've
Yeah.
got families. 1 or 2 bedroom apartment is not the way they might live in a 3 bedroom apartment, but
Yeah.
we don't have any of those.
Yeah.
And then and for seniors that want to downsize, what does assisted or
Yeah.
a different type of living look like? They've got the services. So I think we've got to
one-bedroom
change.
condos are
Yeah,
not what we
1-bedroom
need. Yeah.
condos are not for
But
everybody.
that's why the 2025 University Avenue project that the city has developed and then is now Build Now Waterloo Region
Yeah.
is developing, because there's going to be housing units with 4 or 5 bedrooms, right?
Yeah.
So it's so people can get into the marketplace.
Okay, so what should a small local business that's a chamber member, but just broadly the small business community, know about how they can support the growth and the goals that are developing and coming from the city's approach? I mean, it needs all hands on deck to make this happen. It's the development community, it's builders, it's small business, it's those that are growing the economy, investors. What should small businesses? Most of our members are small businesses. What should they know about what's going on, and how can they help?
Well, it's a great question. And part of the way that small business owners, and I know they're really busy, can help is when we ask for input on, our strategic plan or things like that they could take, even if it's a half an hour, to try, help us and give us their input so we have a better sense of that. But I think one of the important things, hopefully for your listeners to understand, is that, the city is listening. And I would say the region too. I've got 2 hats, but we do listen when, a small business owner talks to us about the challenge they had with getting a building permit or, whatever it could be, right? There's, public health inputs or implications. Sometimes there's some of those really practical things. We do try to figure out how to try and make it a little easier. But I often just say to people, if you're hitting what you feel like is a bit of a brick wall, just drop me a text or an email, and we'll see if we can talk it through, because we have a deep interest at the city, and certainly me personally, and doing what we can to support small businesses, because we know that's the backbone of. It's said so much it's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true, right?
Well, it is true.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, and we're also, you and I and a lot of others are involved with that AI project that the University of Waterloo is running, and that's something I think that's really exciting. And again, the point of that is that to help some of the small businesses figure out how to use AI to their advantage.
Well, I think one of the things with that project is it's hard to do pilots with small businesses because they're hard to get
Yeah,
to.
they're busy. They're busy people.
But I'm excited about that project because I keep saying, remember when I talk about a small business, you know this, Revenue Canada or Stats Canada would say a small business anyone under 500.
Yeah. This is
For me, a
1
small
to
business
10.
is 1 to 10.
Yeah,
1 to 10,
yeah.
1 to 20. That's where 80+% of businesses are in every community.
Yep.
When you talk small business, that's what it is. And they have a different set of issues and different realities. So I think
100%,
it's very valuable for
But
them.
that's the beauty of a community like Waterloo and Waterloo Region, is that we've got the co-op program with the University of Waterloo and Laurier through their business sector, that we can hopefully be able to deploy them into the marketplace to help.
Well, and that AI is something that everyone is going to have to understand is coming. So the project that we're working on together with Communitech and the universities and others is, how do we make that accessible for that small business?
I
And so
think
we got to
that's
figure
really
out what are the
smart,
project types of thing where they can save money, be more productive, get more money in the net to their business so that they can grow, because that's the advantage of it.
100%.
Listen, we're running out of time. We could go on all day. I'm sure we haven't even got to some of the exciting stuff like the politics. But what is something if someone watching wouldn't know about your role that they might not expect? So you're because you do have 2 roles. You're mayor, and also you kind of lead the city of Waterloo, but you're also on regional council. But what are some things might expect on a more personal or human side of the job that doesn't get headlines? Because people see you as in the mayor's chair, or they see you at regional council. But what are some of the other things?
Well, one thing that I tell people is I don't like my job. I love it.
Yeah.
So I hope that, I don't know if people see that or not, but I mean, I do really carve out. I'm mindful about how much time I save for my family.
Yeah.
Particularly like right now, both my kids are started university outside of the area, and so when they're back now, they just came home Monday and Tuesday, so it's like really important for me to just save some time for them. So and that's I've tried to be mindful of that over the last 3 years as well. And so when I do go to a lot of events, and sometimes people say, "Oh, you're at everything. Why aren't you coming to mine?" And I'm like, I just sometimes make decisions to say I'm keeping this weekend for my family, and I have to say no sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, looking ahead, say 10 or 20 years, what legacy do you hope that your term in office and your council are going to leave?
I'm so young to think about legacy.
Well, I know. Well, you're young. Some of us are feeling older by the day. What's the milestone, or what do you want to achieve? What's from your time on council?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I mean, a couple of things. I mean, the housing piece, that was certainly something that I ran on 2022, was around keeping public land in public hands. So that it really is 2025 University Avenue. That will stay in perpetuity because of the way it's, and the legal pieces of it and the way it's set up, and working with Habitat. So I'm really looking forward to the ground. They're going to start the first building in the spring, so I'm really excited about that. The city had a small piece to play in terms of the hospital, the new hospital that's coming, and there's some really exciting work around that where the city will have an opportunity on an economic development front, because we've done a partnership with the Accelerator Center. So I think some of the things coming out of that from an economic development, but an innovation, and then of course, a community and healthcare perspective. Those are some big things.
Yeah.
But then I also really care a lot about climate change, which so we're still doing what we can on that front as well to make sure our city is future-proofed.
All important things. Looking at, just as we wrap up, I always do this. When we do this podcast, it's a little bit about leaders and the jobs that they have, but it's also about the leadership style. So I always ask the same set of questions.
Okay.
So it's rapid fire.
Okay.
Short answers. I'll try and talk fast too, just as we wrap up. If you could go back and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
Go traveling.
Yes, that's a good one.
Like around the world or across Canada.
Yeah, I love that. Who or what inspires you most in your journey in life?
I think single moms, to be honest, because they work so hard. They care about their kids. I know and I've seen that even within my own circle of family. What they do to support their kids and to support themselves is pretty inspiring.
I have a little taste of that, so I think that's a good. I think that's a good answer. If you weren't in your current career, what do you think you'd be doing instead? What would you like to be doing?
What would I like to be doing? Yeah. I don't know. I'd probably be doing some kind of government relations or public affairs work. I mean,
staying involved in.
Yeah, I think I would still, because I just really enjoy the public service, community service part of it. So. I don't know. Maybe I would take your job.
Well, you know what? It's a great job to have. But if I wasn't doing this, I always say I'd like to be a singer, but I got a bad voice.
Okay.
And
like that.
I just kind of think that would be a cool thing to do, because I love it. But you know what? It's tough to answer that question when you love what you do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Are you reading a book? Are you watching podcasts? What are some of the things you're doing right now?
Well, I just got Jane Mitchell's Bad Counsel, so I haven't started it yet, but I'm going to read it over the holidays.
Isn't Jane Mitchell the former counselor?
Yeah. She wrote a book called Bad Counsel. Yeah. I don't think it refers to when you were on council.
Well, it could have. I was not. I'll be interested in reading that.
Yeah. So Bad Counsel, I'm going to read that. I'm actually going to read a book. It's still work related. It's called Dialogue. Paul Bourne recommended it, who's like an expert in community consultation. But I don't podcast I listen to all the time is The Curse of Politics. Have you heard of it with David Hurley?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
a,
is it
I'm a
different
regular
from the
listener.
Hurley-Burley?
Well, yeah, he does too. One,
does-
Hurley
oh.
Burley, but then the Curse of Politics
Ah.
is
I don't think I've listened to that one. I'll have to check
the
check
curse
that one out.
part is well named.
Oh, yeah. Well,
He's got a liberal, a conservative, and an NDP strategist, and they
Well, I
just
like
talk about. Yeah, it's
I'll have
really
to- I'll have to
interesting.
tune
Yeah.
into that one.
Yeah.
And I like the Sirius FM version versus the family friendly version. Which I know this is a dangerous question for you, but what is a favorite local business here in Waterloo that you frequent on a regular
Oh well, I don't know if I have a favorite one. I mean, I do love shopping in Uptown,
Yes.
and we're really
JS
promoting
and the crew there.
Yeah, we're really promoting support local, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's
Go to
too
Uptown.
many to
There's
choose
Too
from.
many to choose
Too
in
many
Uptown.
to choose from.
Okay, and for those that are listening, want to make a connection or get involved in the policy process,
Yeah,
what's the
yeah.
best place for people to connect with you?
Well, it's going to sound silly, but I think Instagram, because like there are some just, if you go there now, there's some very fun and funny videos on there, holiday videos, but that's also where we post like about council decisions and things that are coming up. Like we post a lot of serious and relevant information as well as just some of the events and activities I've been to.
Or
But
just
it
go to
seems
any community event
Yeah.
and you can find
Yeah,
Dorothy.
yeah.
Listen, thank you. I know we always say for business owners, for elected officials, time's probably your most valuable commodity. So we appreciate you
Yeah,
spending
no,
some
and
time with us today.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that you taking the time to do these kind of things because it's the more like we have to reach out in so many different ways to get people and this kind of stuff's really important. So thanks,
Great.
Ian.
Thanks for it.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Behind the Business, proudly presented by Gore Mutual, insurance that does good. New episodes drop every Thursday, so be sure to tune in next week. You can also visit greaterkwchamber.com to catch up on past episodes anytime. We'll see you next time as we continue to go Behind the Business.